tell us like how you and I met.
Haha, this is fun. I don't know if you remember well, but we met through a mutual friend of ours, Nora, for whom I was working for the Socially Relevant Film Festival, and she brought me to your house when you were having a dinner party, and I was very impressed because at one point there was a karaoke, and you were singing all the Chinese Army Orchestra songs. Well, this was quite a unique experience for me.
Oh yeah, it's funny. Was it a birthday party or something, right? Or
Maybe it was,
Christmas
or maybe
combination.
Chinese New Year or something.
Okay. Yeah,
Well, I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
remember well, but
yeah.
I was very
So
impressed by the Chinese Army songs.
revolutionary songs. But
Exactly.
anyway, yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. You have a good memory. Yeah, I forgot that little interlude. I just remember you were helping the festival, socially relevant film festival. You're the press and you interview filmmakers, and you really did such a wonderful job. Uh, ask the right question, ask the right time, and their films, and so it was like a really wonderful to watch you and do your
Thank
job.
you. That is very nice of you. Well, it was very interesting for me to help out with the PR strategy and as a publicist, because since I'm a film critic, it was I knew how to handle things from the other side, or at least what was expected by the journalists. So it was very interesting, and that was not the first occasion and not the last, because I've been working with other film festivals in these regards or other regards, but it's always wonderful to work with such a team.
Thank you, thank you. It was great to have met you, and then now we're still hooking up with each other. I would like to read a short biography of Chiara's. Okay, so Chiara Spagnoli Gabardi. All right, correct me.
Yes, it's tricky, it's Italian. Chiara Spagnoli Gabardi, but you did a great job. Spagnoli Gabardi.
Is a film critique, sustainability and culture reporter, screenwriter, filmmaker, visual artist, and professor. She has studied in British school in Milan from nursery to high school, graduated in political science, got a master's in screenwriting and film production, and studied at the Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Institute in New York and Los Angeles. Chiara has been working as filmmaker and journalist since 2003, collaborating with international magazines and radio television networks. She has also been part of festival juries as film critic. Her work in media interviews with her career as a visual artist, creating material puns that
Material puns, yes.
material puns that are connected to her use of language. The title of each painting is inspired by the materials she plays on canvas. Her artwork has so far been exhibited in 4 continents. She is a dedicated artivist, donating her works to the causes and humanitarian she supports, and is a professor of how to say that.
Phenomenology. Contemporary art.
Sorry, phenomenology of contemporary arts at Istituto Europeo di Design in Milan. Sorry, all these pronunciation not very well.
I know, it was quite a challenge. You did a great job.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, Kara, you wear so many hats. As a film critique artist and also teaching and many writing. So, where are these ideas or all these artistic, I say, talent come from? Like, tell us a little bit, like, your background.
Oh, goodness. Well, I've always been a very imaginative person. I've always loved culture and the arts. I was very much of a musical theater child and performances in high school. I love to draw. I love languages because besides English and Italian, I speak French and Spanish. So I'm always curious to have that multicultural confrontation with other people. So growing up, all in all, things added up, and little by little, I found my path. As you mentioned, I studied political sciences, so also all the things I do are very much focused also on the the worldly context that we are experiencing. So every field of mine, every professional path of mine intertwines and sort of nurtures the other.
Putting myself back.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
I'd lost you, but here we are.
yeah. No, I'm here. Yeah. So, yeah. So is your, when you were younger, is your parents into arts?
Well, my mother is an art historian. She was also a journalist, but amusingly enough, she was a theater critic. So I'm the film critic, she's the theater critic. And my dad's an engineer. It was very funny because as a child, I said, "Oh, I will never be a journalist," because I don't know, I saw the stress of my mom, and perhaps I wanted to take a different path. But in the end, I just reconnected so much with my love for writing and storytelling primarily. So, storytelling is at the core of my work, whether it's with my visual art, with my work as a journalist, also in academia. So for me, it's important to share these stories and try to inspire and uplift people somehow.
That's wonderful. Yeah. So I muted myself earlier. So yeah, thank you so much. That's so amazing. So did you grew up in Milan or some other cities?
I grew up in Milan within this international school because it was a British school. So we learned all the subjects in English. We had some in Italian, and it was very much of a diverse community. So that very much gave me that interest to expanding my horizons. And as I grew up, I started to work a little here, a little there in other countries. And as you know, because that's where we met, I spent quite a few years in New York, which is, I think, a great school of life because it toughens you up. So I was very much the ingenue who was trying to navigate her way. And I sort of returned to Europe as a tough cookie who, is Milanese, British upbringing, New Yorker with a passion for Japan. So very, very workaholic, very determined.
Yeah. So so tell us a little bit about is it which is coming first, as a writer, as a filmmaker, as an artist, or as a like a what, like, are they all coming at the same time, or one starts more earlier?
It's amusing because more or less they started all at the same time. At university, I started reviewing films, and at the same time, since I was studying topics that were less imaginative, because I was following courses in economics, in history, in law as well, I needed to find an artistic vent. So I started making these pop art creations of mine with mixed media, and where wordplay would come into action. And so they more or less started to develop simultaneously, the writing, the reporting, and the artistic creation. And along the way, after I graduated, after my masters and so on, it started to become a job, because journalism, I started out as film critic, but then I expanded to writing other things, foreign affairs, sustainability, which is something that I have very much at heart. And then when I was living in New York, I started doing television. It was funny because I was a bit of a snob towards television. I was like, yeah, but all these shows are about gossip. There's nothing really serious. And instead, I worked for a very well-structured program that was all about film criticism. And I fell in love with the medium because I felt like as if I were in my living room talking with friends about films and the talent related to films. And a friend of mine in Italy who saw me doing these shows that were available online suggested I submitted a program for the university I now teach to. And I was very perplexed because I feel very much of a student at heart. So I said, "Are you sure? Me teaching? I don't know if I have anything to teach." And I submitted the program. The faculty was delighted, and the rest is history. So I've been teaching there since 2015 as well.
That's wonderful. So I was wondering, I've been Italy for a couple of times. I visited Milan and of course Rome and Tuscany and where's that? Florence. Also, yeah, I one year I went to Dolomiti Mountain to
Ooh,
teach music, and everywhere I go, I'm just wow all the time. It's so beautiful. You look to the left, it's beautiful. Look at right, it's beautiful. Look at the front, it's beautiful. Look back, it's beautiful. So my question for you is, uh, as an Italian, I grew up in Italy, and then when you come to United States, uh, do you have some kind of shock visually? Like, it's like, I mean, New York is great, right? But not everywhere is beautiful. Let's put it.
That's a
Right?
very interesting question. I suppose that Italians who were born here and grew up in Italy almost take their country for granted. So when they go abroad, they start to look for other things. When they come to America, it's mostly about pursuing the American dream. So they travel there to the United States for an idea more than for a quest of beauty, for that sensation that you can be whatever you want in this country that welcomes you and grants you all of these opportunities. Before living in New York, I had traveled quite a bit across the States. And I was very fascinated by the various landscapes in the East Coast and West Coast. New York, I think, as an Italian, as a European, I love very much because it's a bit of a combination of many places around the world. I never considered New York strictly American. I consider it a sort of combination of the best there is in the world. And I think in terms of architectural beauty, it through the years it almost has acquired a sort of vintage allure. It has its historicity. It's no longer so new, New York, as opposed to certain countries in China. I mean, certain cities in China, certain places in the Middle East that are even newer in their development. So I found this old-fashioned charm to it, and obviously this magnificent energy that really drives you and allows you to have the most remarkable encounters just out of the blue.
Yes, I agree with you. Yeah, it's New York itself. It's like a country by itself, right? With different people, different culture, different cuisine, different smell, different fragrance. It's a mixed mishmash of
It
many
is.
different things. Yeah.
And as an
So,
Italian, I can tell you New York has the best pizza I ever tried.
oh yeah. Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
I
But
don't know what the secret is, but
yeah, yeah. But speaking of pizza, right? Is it pizza in Italy? They're more or less more thin, right? It's not like a Chicago pizza, very thick.
there is also the possibility of having thicker, like pizza al taglio. So it's like squares that are cut for you. But yes, usually it's thinner, and it's the forte of the southern part of Italy, Naples, basically.
Mm.
So of course in Milan you find plenty of pizza, but it's not one of the traditional dishes.
Yeah. Wow, you're making me hungry. So by the way, yeah, so I wanted to show your IMDb. So let's look at this. So this is Chiara's IMDb. That's wonderful. So what is this video about? Shall we watch it?
Oh gosh, if you want. It's
It's a
when I
short
was
one.
doing
Yeah.
television in New York.
Yeah. Yeah, tell us.
Oh yes, I was very lucky enough to be chosen as one of the
Today,
regular.
I'm joined by artists.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I was lucky enough to be chosen as one of the regular co-hosts of this
Today,
television
today,
show on
Yeah.
films.
Yeah.
So yes, play it.
Okay, I'll play.
I'm joined by artist, filmmaker, international film critic from Italy, Chiara Spagnoli Gabardi.
There's always this very tricky game when it comes to nominations of the Golden Globes and the Oscars. Personally, I found she was brilliant. She was very, very moving, very intense, and I think she has once again proved to be very talented in whatever she does.
You, on the other hand, you like this movie. You're not a football fan.
I'm not a football fan.
You said absolutely it's going to be a hit.
Yes, I think so. I'm not a sports person, therefore I was biased negatively. I wasn't expecting to like it, but I actually did. And I really enjoyed to see Kevin Costner in a more introspective role. Obviously, they chose the right voice because Scarlett has this husky, interesting voice, and she was also very perky and joyful. I didn't feel I was in ancient Greece. At some points, I thought I was in some kung fu movie with all these slow motion fights.
Chiara, I've never asked you when and how and why are you a film critic?
Well, I also started watching movies at a very young age. I didn't start being a film critic at 7 years old, but I started working in the film industry, and then gradually I started writing my own scripts, also for short films, and then reviews.
Interesting.
Nice.
You know, Ching, this makes me very nostalgic. It was a beautiful team I had, and one of the shows I was on at the time happened to be very near to my birthday. I'm born on February 14th, Valentine's Day.
Oh, what a day.
While we were filming that episode, they brought me on screen some cupcakes with candles, and they did the surprise. So it was a marvelous celebration. It was wonderful intellectually and on a humane level. It was beautiful.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I noticed your makeup is like coincide with your outfit. Like your outfit is green, your makeup on your eye.
That's the makeup department.
Beautiful.
I have to thank
It's
them.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. So
Great.
tell us a little bit about when you write a critique, right? Just for instance, like you wrote a beautiful critique for me for my Young Diary a year ago. Like, how do you do it? Like, do you have a sequential of a couple of things you have? You know, it's like your routine. How do you critique a film?
Actually, it's just it spills out after doing it for over 15 years. So it becomes a very quick process because you've been doing it for so long. So obviously you have to stick to certain journalistic terms. You do a little intro, you have to explain the plot, and then you really dissect the film. And obviously it's an opinion that you are sharing because fortunately this is no science. We are all right, we are all wrong in liking or hating the same film. But as someone who is considered to be an expert because they have dedicated their life to watching lots of films and analyzing lots of films, you give your voice and you basically say very simply, maybe with fancy words or vocabulary, what you think works and what you think doesn't. And I always try to provide a little philosophical insight to it because as you know, I'm also fond of phenomenology, being the subject of my teaching. So I always try to say what the film tries to deliver in that sort of aspect, or maybe what it fails to deliver. So this is basically the way I try to do it, whether if it's written or spoken because I'm on camera or on the radio. So this is more or less how it happens.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. So I just pinned that article you wrote about us in the commentary, so people can probably watch it if they want to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us right now, what are you working on right now currently, or if you could share.
Well, I continue my work as a film critic. And by the way, I just wanted to add that my review of my Yangang Diary was excellent, and not with friends, because I'm very I try to be ethical in the judgment of my film. So if I hadn't liked it, I probably would have found a diplomatic way in trying to wiggle my way out of reviewing it. So I wrote a very good review because it's an excellent film. So brava, Ching. Right now, I've started teaching again online. This is my 3rd year. I keep on doing my reviews for Cinema Daily US, which is the outlet for which I interviewed you. And as a journalist, I also happen to be asked to moderate panels. For instance, during the pandemic, I had the chance to moderate several panels about virtual reality for a good friend of mine who is an excellent VR director. She won plenty of awards in several film festivals, also in Venice. I was also in one of her most recent projects last winter, in a more performative role. And talking about moderation, just 2 days ago, I was asked to moderate a panel for Cartier, the jewelry brand here in Milan, about female empowerment. And the guest speakers were 2 extraordinary women, Simone Menezes, who is an orchestra conductor, Italian-Brazilian, who lives in France and has conducted orchestras worldwide. And I know that you're very much a musician yourself, so I'm sure you would enjoy it. And the other lady was Anna Maria Tartaglia, who comes from the entrepreneurial field. She's done a zillion things, and she's also in academia. And this panel, this conversation, actually, more than a panel, this conference between the 3 of us will be on Cartier's platforms on Women's Day. So all of you worldwide will be able to see it. And besides this, a beautiful documentary has been made, inspired by Simone Menezes' work as a orchestra conductor, related to the philosophical concept of metanoia, which is a sort of transcendental journey one can have. And the film was screened in a theater here in Milan on Friday. And a Q&A followed, and I moderated that with her and one of the people who was interviewed in the documentary, Alberto Cavalli, who is also very much in the arts, a brilliant mind. So these are the 2 most recent things that have happened in terms of my work.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, when do you have a preference when you watch film these days, if you don't have to critique? Like, do you have certain genre you prefer, like narrative or documentary or horror or, I don't know, drama?
I absolutely love period pieces and musicals. I'm very fond of musicals. I've recently seen Cyrano, which is excellent. They made a good job in adapting the stage version of the original novel by Edmond Rostand. And something I have actually become rather weary about is horror films. I don't know why. As a child, I used to devour horrors. Now I get terribly scared. Like, anything terrifies me, and I grab the arm of the person I have next to me because I get very fearful. So maybe as we grow up, we become more aware of the dangers of the world, and so we become more sensitive to certain things. Who knows?
Yeah. So very interesting. You're Italian. I'm a musician. There's so many great Italian, tradition. Italian is the country where the opera was born. and so many great musicians were bred in Italy. And so, do you have any comment about you being Italian and classical music? Do you think in your country is opera still something people bribe it about, or is it younger people are kind of drifted away?
This is a very good question because I feel it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, that Italians take their heritage very much for granted. For instance, I enjoy going to the opera. When I was in New York, I would go to the Met Opera, review operas. So I wrote also about that. Here in Milan, Teatro alla Scala, the same. But Italians in general, very much the new generations, tend to ignore the lyricism of melodrama, the important historicity it has in our country that it has very much inspired other countries in the world, so we should be proud of it. And an excellent example of this is that as a young student, I was part of a choir in my high school, and that was in the international school. I then attended an Italian university in Rome, and I was the founder of the choir with the two musicians who were very prominent in their field. And the members of our choir were very few, and it didn't last for more than a couple of years because the students did not have this feeling towards this tradition of classical music, and it was all Italian students. So that was very upsetting on one end, and I think it's just such a special thing we have that we should all be very proud of it and cultivate it.
Yeah, and also traditionally, musical terms is all written in Italian, allegro, presto, adagio, it's all these terms. So it's amazing that we are still using those terms, and we're still basically speaking. My mother was a pianist, and so sometimes she would using those musical terms to tell us, if say she wants us to be quiet, she'll just say piano, pianissimo.
Oh, that's excellent. That's
Yeah. She's not telling us to play music, but it's just like everyday life. She uses those terms, So that's very, very. You have such a rich culture in that sense, and of course other stuff. Italians are famous. Your designer is a wonderful. Talk about art and design. Would you like to tell us a little bit about you as an artist? Like, what kind of art do you make?
My art, I call material puns because it's all wordplay, and the material I place on canvas is connected to the title I give to the painting. So it's a very joyful kind of approach to art. It's not, the Damien Hirst kind of art that is a little more morbid and dramatic. It's something that very much relates to my work as a writer. So it all goes back to words, but through a visual medium. And something I was very happy to do through the years, especially in recent years, was to dedicate myself also as an artivist. So I would make works of art that I would then donate to causes I thought that were worthy of being tributed. And it all started out with a painting I did of the goddess Kali, the Indian goddess, that I then donated to the Children's Welfare Association in Kolkata. And this is a very special orphanage that was founded by 3 Indian ladies in 1952. And not only does it welcome girls in their school age who obviously have no families, but it helps them complete their studies, find work, and it also teaches them self-defense mechanisms to, be able to navigate the world on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had many, many other initiatives related to artivism. I made an artwork that I donated to the mayor of Port Douglas in Australia to tribute the work they were doing to protect the marine world. I donated an artwork to Professor Emir Kusturica, the very famous filmmaker who founded the Kustendorf Film Festival, a music festival, because he created this community in Serbia, Drevengard, this city made out of wood, and he has given a variety of job opportunities to people living in that town in Serbia, and also uplifted them by making it a cultural center. And obviously we all remember him for his film Life is a Miracle. And then there are plenty more of things that I did. You were talking about design, also for Milan Design Week. Before the pandemic, I made another painting for that I donated to the One Ocean Foundation that was founded by Princess Zara Aga Khan to preserve the marine world, and it was exhibited during this design week. So yes, as you were bringing to light, Milan is very famous for design. It's also very famous also for fashion. So I often write also about fashion and sustainable fashion especially, and always in connection. The funny thing is that I always bring all of my activities together, because for instance, I've been collaborating with a film festival in Innsbruck in Austria, Nature Film Festival, for many years. And last year, for the opening night, because I'm the master of ceremonies for the opening and the closing nights, I organized a fashion show with some local students in their high school years who had made collections inspired by nature. And so within the cinema, they had this fashion show inspired by nature. And there again, it's one of my other hats that I mixed with the various activities.
Wow, that's beautiful. I'm looking at your page. Yeah, website. This is a music related.
Yes, all the paintings related to music, indeed.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Of course, it's your cup of tea, right?
Yeah, I see a viola over there.
Yeah, it's violin actually, played by Paganini, yeah?
Yeah. So what is the material you made on this?
I found at a flea market a broken violin.
Oh, okay.
So I put it on canvas. I covered it with a sort of papier-mâché approach with the music scores.
Yeah.
And you know that, well, you know better than I do, that Paganini would play only once and never again. It's like Paganini never repeats, never plays again. But considering my film background, there's the famous quote from Casablanca, which actually is misquoted, but it's play it again, Sam, play it again. And so I did this mix between play it again, Paganini, and leading back to his violin.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
You see, also in every painting of mine, there's a little story, a fun story.
Yeah, and this looks like a flute, some kind of
Hamlin for the Pied Piper who used to enchant all the rats and also the children with his magic flute.
Wow.
And there we are.
Wow. That's beautiful. Wow. So you have so many different I would say this is a music related. This is called greenhouse, I guess, a tree and plants.
Yeah, nature related. Yes, it's lots of themes. So I've done lots of exhibitions in various cities. I don't just donate them. I'm also in some collectors' homes who wanted to buy them. So I am also a traditional artist, but I like to see how my art can make people happy. So because I told you I have this very joyous approach in the things I make. So this is why I also started this artivism, because instead of donating money to a cause, because it's not like I'm a celebrity who has a zillion dollars to donate, I donate something that is made with the heart and has a story that can inspire.
Right. Tell us a little bit about this one.
Oh, this is not an artwork. This is a visual effect. It's a mosaic of all my paintings put together. So
Mm.
if you try to enlarge it, every little tiny segment you see is one of my paintings that
Mm.
creates the bigger picture of my face. So
Mm.
it's almost existential, you know? All the
Yeah.
things I make create the person I am.
Wow. That's just wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah, excellent. So now in terms of writing script, do you have any are you going to write movies, or tell us a little bit about, or you have written film score and the film, you have written?
I've written several film scripts
Yeah.
on my own with writing partners.
Yeah.
I've some of these became short films. One of them I directed many, many years ago, and it was also related to my artwork. It was very much of an existential approach and also experimental in terms of technique. And for the features, it's a little more complicated if you're not already within the field as someone who does just screenwriting. Also, because my scripts were rather ambitious. One was a period film, one was a musical, another one was a phenomenological sustainability fairy tale. So we shall see. We shall see how these things eventually find their place in the world.
So how is student wise, you're teaching, right? Are you teaching undergrad or graduate student? Like, tell us a little bit about the school.
Yes, Istituto Europeo di Design is a university that is not just based in Milan, it's based in various cities in Italy, Rome, Florence, Torino, Venice, and also abroad in Spain and in Brazil. My course is in English. It's Phenomenology of Contemporary Arts, and my students are in their third year of the undergraduate course. So, phenomenology is basically a branch of philosophy that studies experience. So, what I try to do is I bestow to the students some background knowledge on these philosophical concepts of the main phenomenologists. And then, as we go along, lecture after lecture, we try to make it more pragmatic and try to apply these concepts in the artistic field. Not just the visual arts, but also film, literature, music. So it's a way to try to open up their minds to think about things under a different perspective, to question how they experience the creative disciplines, and also to have some actual day-to-day examples of how they can use this sort of method that I try to provide them with.
So people who take this course, are they necessarily visual artists, or could be other discipline?
They are aspiring designers, because my group belongs to the field of product design and interior design. Within the entire university, there's also the course related to those who want to do fashion, jewelry, but it's something that we could compare maybe to Parsons or FIT or maybe Tisch School of the Arts. It's mainly design and fashion, more or less.
Mm, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah. So this is the school, right? I'm
Yes,
scrolling
Istituto
around.
Europeo di Design. Yes,
That's
Milan is
beautiful.
the headquarters.
Mm,
And in a few years, we're going to be moving in a beautiful venue that is being renovated now.
yeah.
That was an ancient historical place in Milan, and it's going to become more of a campus-like structure.
Mm,
But of course, with the pandemic, this is the third year I've been teaching online,
mm,
and it's pretty challenging because every lecture is 3 hours long.
mm.
And I try to interact with the students, ask questions, but on Zoom they have to, actually it's not Zoom, it's Google Meets, they have to keep their mics off, their cameras off, because if not there's an echo. So if I ask them a question, there's always this sort of technical hurdle, and it's not the same as being in a classroom.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. There's human connection has been disrupted by the screen, and you could say it's better than nothing. But I teach music online sometimes, especially teaching violin is very difficult because I need to touch their hands. I need to demonstrate. So without physically next to them, it's also difficult for me to hear them, and difficult for them to hear me. So it's a difficult thing. So tell us, in terms of pandemic, now it's been going on for 2 years, and very soon it's third year now. So how is the entire pandemic affecting Italy, affecting your creativity, and the way you work, or you just everyday life?
Well, I must say, the first year was pretty intense. I took it as a moment of reflection, to read a lot, to to watch more movies online, of course. And although as a film critic, you like to see them on the big screen and to have your community of colleagues to discuss them with, I was lucky enough because as a freelancer, many of my collaborations kept going. Others, unfortunately, stopped in terms of certain magazines because advertisers were pulling out, but others came on. So I was able to moderate panels on online platforms. It's been very bizarre. I was used to traveling a lot. For instance, 2018 and 2019 was very much of a period in which I was going all over the place. Every month I was being sent somewhere to cover stories, to be on festival juries, to attend events. So I feel very much in my element when I'm traveling. So that was probably the downside for me. But I had family close to me. With friends, we thank God for technology. We'd have these online meetings to keep up to date. So for work, it went better than expected, except for the traveling, of course. And from a humane level as well, I managed to navigate it fairly well. And,
That's good.
of course, for us in Italy, especially in Milan, it was very harrowing because we were the first Western country hit by this pandemic, because at the beginning, everyone believed it was something that would have stayed just in China. And then when we saw that people were becoming severely ill and we were the first ones to have an actual lockdown, we almost set an alarm bell to the entire Western world of what would have followed for all the other countries, that they too would have had to have lockdowns. I was also interviewed by an American television show about this, and I remember the television host was rather perplexed, and he said, "Don't you think that maybe your president is a little overreacting? He is trying to lock down a country without any reason." And I said, "Well, the director of the World Health Organization, on the contrary, said that probably all the other countries are going to be following Italy's example." And that's what happened. So, it still gives me goosebumps to think of the images of what happened in Bergamo, which is close to Milan, when the army trucks were bringing out the corpses of the dead because there were too many and people could not mourn their loved ones. So it just, fortunately now there are vaccines, although some people are still a little, there are those who are not too convinced about vaccines, but fortunately the situation is improving in these regards. And unfortunately we have what seems like a war coming over, which we hope will not be the case with the most recent news about Ukraine and Russia. But yes, going back to your question, I managed to handle the pandemic better than I would have expected.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's wonderful. And do you personally have like people who has suffered or died from the virus? Do you know?
Yes, unfortunately, I lost a few people from this pandemic, not just in Italy. A good friend of mine, a film critic in New York, another friend in Ireland, and a very good family friend here in Italy. And it was outrageous. It was heart-wrenching, and what can I say? It just really leaves me bewildered when I still listen to people that say that all of this is a hoax, or that do not believe it to be true, because I really had to say goodbye to people because of COVID.
Yeah, that's too bad. So yeah, we're I know some people. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of people I personally know who died of this virus, but it's like a friend's friends or friend's parents and that kind of relationship. Yeah, so we're doing okay, I guess. COVID, to me, the silver lining actually is that I stayed home and I had time to edit my film. I really, started like COVID started March 2020, and I started the rest of the year just working on editing my Yangon Diary. So if not for COVID, I may not have finished the movie because it's just too daunting.
I understand. I think this is the upside of this entire dramatic situation, that many of us were forced to slow down and dedicated that time to personal projects that otherwise would have been swept away, because we're always running around like crazy people. So I think this is a good thing out of all this drama, the fact that we could also really focus on what is truly meaningful, the people we have in our lives. Maybe we've also made a connection, a selection along the way. So and of course also the planet benefited from us staying at home. You could see all the wildlife wandering in cities, the air being cleaner, the waters being cleaner. So it has brought also some good things.
Yeah, indeed. So is it okay to talk about the current situation? Let's just spend a little time. So the war, the Russian and the Ukraine.
Yes.
How does Italy, the government, stands for right now?
Well, we're obviously all standing for Ukraine. We find what happened from Russia's end completely absurd, and I think we're all very much terrified of a third world war occurring. My generation was lucky enough not to experience war firsthand. Of course, there was the Gulf War. It was all things that seemed to be far from us. The civil battles and conflicts that were happening elsewhere. This is happening in Europe, so it's close to home. Of course, we are allied with the United States, so it would put us in conflict with Russia. So we are all very, very much concerned of what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I was just told this morning. I was watching news constantly that Ukraine is going to have a talk with the Russian. So we'll see what happens. But it seems like such a barbaric movement so far, right? And it's like some country can just tank into other country and just starting to destroy people's lives and buildings or or properties. So it's pretty frightening.
And this is all starting from one man. And I think that when someone stays in power for such a long time, for 20 years or so, they probably start to lose perspective on how things should be. They have this almighty sensation of being able to do whatever they like. And I think this is what is so important about democracies, that there is a continuous change in who is in power, because obviously it brings new ideas, it brings new people in charge, and it should make that kind of political structure more grounded in terms that, it is not concentrated in one person alone, and and that things can evolve in this way. It's almost as if we're going back in time to a dictatorship that is wanting us to plunge us in centuries past.
Right. So it is in a way also a wake up call that we do not think this kind of thing is not going to happen, right? And it's like, yeah, uh, you have to deal with that. You have to deal with this kind of also almost like a Nazi behavior,
Indeed.
right?
I think it's almost like the pandemic. We've seen all of this stuff in films, as a matter of fact, all these dystopian apocalyptic scenarios, and we're like, oh yes, this belongs to fiction. It's never
Yeah.
going to happen to us.
Yeah.
But instead, as you were saying, it's a wake-up call that these horrific things are closer than we may think. And unfortunately, they always belong to human beings. We are the species on this planet that has the power to think and to use rationality, but apparently we use it at its worst. And this is very, very troubling.
Yeah, I know. So hope not too many lives will lose, and also the country will get back to its normalcy, Ukraine. So, and also I think it's a tragedy for Russian people too. The government is behaving like a idiot, and the people suffer too, right? I mean,
yes, the civilians are the ones who are going to be penalized by all of this, because all the other countries worldwide are going to establish certain sanctions towards Russia, trying to isolate its power
exactly.
from an economic perspective, diminishing trade, from communications. And who is going to pay the price? The poor civilians who did not have the say in the matter, who did not take this absurd decision of starting a war. The politicians are not the ones who are going to be affected by this. They probably have other means to communicate, to earn their living. So it's a very, very sad situation for the people of Russia, as well as, of course, of Ukraine.
Yeah, that's true. So do you have any plan to travel, or you cannot make plan right now?
Well, recently I just came back from a holiday, so it wasn't work. From Scotland. I'm very fond of
Whoa!
the
Nice.
So I traveled around Scotland. I will have to be in Austria in October for work with this film festival. And in the coming months, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Obviously, it depends where and how and the worldwide situation.
Yeah. You were talking about earlier, you're a big fan of Japan. Tell
Yes.
us why. Like, you went to Japan? Are you falling in love?
I went to Japan when I was in my 20s, my early 20s. And in my international school, when I was 3 to 7 years old, my best friend was Japanese, Yuko. And I really love the elegance, the culture. I love, of course, China as well. I know that's where you come from. But Japan has always had this very special place in my heart. And I discovered that there are several similarities with Italy in terms of family culture and also philosophy, because through my phenomenological studies, I discovered that Japan was the first country in Southeast Asia to welcome Western rationalism, and lots of their philosophical concepts are very similar to the ones in the West, of course, with their own vision. And but I also am fond of the concept of Shintoism, of how you tribute your ancestors. There are a variety of things that I'm very much fond of Japan, and I've happened to work with Japanese people. Well, Nobu is the editor-in-chief of the magazine I write for. He is the film critic who is based in New York and works for Yahoo Japan, the one I wrote, for which I reviewed your film, my Yangang Diary. And I also collaborated with a Japanese lady who lives in Wales, and she founded a film festival, an animation film festival, Kotatsu. And all of my experiences, professional or personal, were always extraordinary. So as soon as it will be possible, I would love to go back.
Yeah, Japan. I only uh, was in Japan when I transfer my fly. I remember they'll take you to this restaurant. You stay, it's overnight, and then you get to eat this all you can eat. The hotel food is just phenomenal. The Japanese, hotel breakfast is phenomenal. But I have also impression. Okay, I can only say impression is Japanese people. They're very on time. They're
Yes.
very clean, right?
Oh, I'm obsessed with punctuality and cleanliness. So I think I in a previous life I was Japanese, because I hate latecomer. The like 2 times in my life when I was late, I was
Yeah.
suffering like
Yeah.
hell.
Yeah.
So
So punctual is
yeah,
very
I arrive
important.
like half an hour before, and then I
Yeah.
start walking around the block or wherever my appointment, because if not, I suffer.
You
So
know, very Italian.
Italians have this reputation. I am aware. I'm aware.
Because
But
I went to Italy 2018, I think 2018 to film. I made a film. Do you remember
yes,
that
yes.
moment? I went to Italy to chase my subject, which is Federico. Uh, but I stayed in an Airbnb for the first like 2-3 nights, and he'll say, "I'll come tomorrow to pick you up at 10:30 a.m." And then I would wait for like half hour, whole hour, for 3 times. I got so pissed off.
Goodness, I totally understand. I mean, you would not run that risk with me. If I am late, it's like because of some major issue does not
Yeah,
depend
yeah,
on me.
yeah.
Yeah, that's why I loved working with the Japanese, punctuality.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I love Japan. Also, food is wonderful. Yeah,
Oh, I love
yeah,
sushi
yeah,
and all of
yeah.
that stuff.
So now speaking of you and your partner, just quickly wrote the My Yangon Diary. Now we're going into the last festival last festival, which is attending socially relevant film festival. And then the film is gonna be shown at the Cinema Village on March 18th. So it's a big deal for me because that's the only so far New York screening in theater. Yeah.
Oh,
So
it's the first one. Let's put it that way. The first of many to come. Yes,
that's
I'm
so
sure the
sweet.
Socially Relevant Film Festival will bring you luck.
Yes, thank you so much. So, as a film critic and as an artist and filmmaker, so tell us, what what is the phenomenal or importance of showing a movie in cinema rather than just people get a link to watch on their computer?
Well, I think the most important thing is that you basically enter a room where you have to leave the world outside. If you watch it on a link, you get the distractions that you get at home. Instead, by watching the film on a big screen in a different venue, you really get absorbed by the story that is being conveyed. You really are living in that moment, and you can live its technical artistry to the fullest, because obviously the audio, the sound techniques that have gone into the making it, as well as the visuals, resonate much more in a screening room. So and also the fact that you're sharing that experience with a community. I'm very much Japanese in so when you go with me, you don't eat nor you drink. So popcorns and beverages are banned, because they disturb me. They disturb the experience of the film. And I'm very lucky enough that for the press screenings of us film critics, there is no such thing as eating or drinking. But when I occasionally happen to go to the cinema with the normal people, or anyway, cinema goers, it just irritates me to
Yeah.
hear this distracting noise in the background.
Yeah.
Um, But yes, I think what marks the difference is the fact that you're really living that story to the fullest when you're in a
Theater.
screening room at the
Right.
cinema.
Yeah, that's very, very well said. And also, I had a one experience which the film was shown in California last October in a big theater, Regal Theater, is that I did not watch the film very well. I watching my audience. I keep shooting them, shooting them, laughing, cheering, or crying. So that kind of a feeling you do not get when you watch your own movie in your own room, right?
True, because it's almost as if you're letting go of all your defenses. You're less self-conscious in a screening room because it's dark, because it's a different place, and you're really absorbed in what is happening on the big screen. So you allow your emotions to flow. If you're watching it on your laptop or on your television set at home, you keep the lights on, perhaps. You have someone wandering around the house, your phone rings, maybe you go in the kitchen and do something. So it's distracting, and you don't really allow yourself to be in the film completely.
Exactly. It's a totally different experience. Yeah, it's a more concentrated, and the audio makes a huge difference, like you said. Yeah. So yeah, that's wonderful said. Shark Fin is my friend who I met on Clubhouse. If we want to talk a Clubhouse, we can talk forever. And Clubhouse. So Shark Fin ask you a question.
Oh yes, what exactly is phenomenology? Okay, phenomenology is not something I came up with. Phenomenology is a branch of philosophy that studies experience. It was first developed in the 1900s by this philosopher called Edmund Husserl, who told us that we had to leave the world outside. So he very much, in his initial phase, because then he sort of changed his ideas, he thought that that when we are experiencing something, we have to completely focus on our subjective perception, and it doesn't matter how we had preconceived something. For instance, if we're thinking of an apple can be in front of us and we are perceiving it, or it can be a figment of our imagination, or in a dream, or an hallucination. And when we are applying phenomenology to this apple, we have to try and figure what elements make the apple what it is. So, is it the color? No, because it can be red, green, yellow. Is it the fact that it's a fruit? Yes, because no matter how you change the apple, it will always remain a fruit. Is it something that you can eat because it's a fruit? Yes. So you try to get to the essence of things by doing phenomenology according from your subjective experience. Then in his latter stage, Edmund Husserl and then other philosophers that followed understood that you cannot rely on your subjective approach alone. You also have to acknowledge that there's a communal understanding of the world, because that intersubjectivity affects our individual subjectivity. So there are more philosophers that studied phenomenology from different perspectives, from Heidegger, Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir, and Merleau-Ponty. So I hope that answered the question on what phenomenology is, the study of experience.
So does this also only apply to object, or can this also apply to human, to a person?
It applies to experience.
Oh.
So if it's a person, if it's also an idea, obviously, or what is love, what is war, it becomes more complex, of course, but it's just how you perceive things, and how you perceive them individually, but also within that set community that influences your thoughts and perceptions.
Wow. Very interesting. I learned something. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because like Edmund Husserl, who was inspired by another thinker of the 1600s, Descartes, he would separate the mind and the body. But other philosophers after him, came to the realization that you can't separate mind and body in the way you perceive things. And I mean, there's plenty more to talk about it, but if you think about it, the way you touch an apple, the way you taste it, cannot be necessarily separated from the way you think about it in your mind, right? Because the mind and body are working in unison to experience that apple. So it's a very fascinating discipline.
Yeah, it applies to so many different things. And so do you think about this all the time, or you just think about when you teach? If you, isn't that going to make you crazy?
Exactly. No, I think it would become a little overwhelming. And usually I also give homework to my students saying, you have to watch this film and make a phenomenological analysis of this film. So no, I might come across a few things in my life and say, oh, this connects with what I teach or with the topics I've most recently read about. So maybe I do make connections in my mind. But yes, when I'm at the dinner table and having my meal, I usually try not to apply phenomenology. I probably do it subconsciously, but I don't think about it.
Yeah. No, great question, Sharkfin. Yeah, very nice.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
So do you have anything else to shout out? We have covered quite a few things, and I would like to do a rapid fire with you. Before we do that, anything else you want to shout out? Anything?
Yeah, I think we've covered everything. If there are any other questions, I'm glad to answer them, or we can do your final
rapid fire. All right. So I usually do a rapid fire. And I want to thank people who are with us today. Sharkfin, want to see more. And Chris was here. Who else? I think Dr. Ching Juhl was listening, and someone else probably listening, but they're not saying anything. So if you don't say anything, we don't know you're there. But yeah, thank you so much. And we have also people watching us from Facebook. And also this thing is also a broadcast to Twitter right now. So thank you guys for watching. And yeah, I'm Ching Juhl. I've been hosting this a live conversation since March 2020. So today, I think this episode is 161, I believe, episode. Wow. So thank you so much for Chiara to join me. So we'll do a rapid fire, okay?
Okay.
Oh, I see someone has a new message. Oh, thank you. Oh, Sean is there. Hi, Sean. My son is there.
Hi. Oh, the talented violinist.
Violist. But you know,
I remember marvelous stories about him playing the viola.
Yeah, you know, he got a job already.
Oh, que bravo! I can't wait to hear him.
Yeah, he's joining actually April already with Pittsburgh Symphony. And he won the audition. Yeah, he's only 21. So bravo. Yeah, Sean. All right. So thank you guys for being with us. And all right, so my first question is very easy. What's your favorite color?
I have two. Fuchsia and periwinkle.
What is that?
Periwinkle is a sort of bluish lavender.
Oh, okay.
And it has a philosophical background to it, but I know we have to go quickly. So according to Rousseau, through that color, you want to leave a lovely memory of yourself.
Wow, that's beautiful. Now, you are Italian, you like Japanese. That's a very complicated question to ask you, because you know, you have many choices. What would be your favorite dish, like when you go to a Japanese restaurant? Which dish would you order?
Oh, just Japanese?
Yeah, just let's go Japanese first. Yeah,
let's go Japanese first. Either classical sushi or maybe chirashi.
What's chirashi?
Chirashi is the bowl of rice with all the fish on top.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe, and also the dorayaki, because I have a sweet tooth. So the little
yeah. So now, as Italian, I guess it's kind of a silly question because everything is so wonderful. So what's your favorite dish?
I love seafood, so probably some pasta with seafood would be my favorite. And
When
internationally speaking, I'm a chocoholic, so probably my favorite food in the world is chocolate.
I cannot imagine you because you're so, fit.
Oh,
If
thank
someone
you.
eats sweets all the time, maybe they're a
Yeah, like
little not
always, I'm
sweet.
eating chocolate all the time.
That's great. That's great. So yeah, now you have traveled many places. If you have a chance of going somewhere for a whole year, has nothing to do with the work, which country, which city would you like to live for 1 year?
Having lived in New York, and since I have this British background, I would love to spend more time in London for sure. Because as you can hear, I still have my British accent despite having lived in the States.
Yeah.
I'm very fond of exploring new places in the UK. I've traveled to Scotland recently. I was in Cornwall, and I fell in love with Wales last year. So I think but I also love France. So maybe I'm torn between the UK and France.
How many languages do you speak?
4.
Oh my God. So
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna come up with a phrase. Okay.
Ooh,
So-
make it easy. Make it
okay.
easy.
How about that? How can I help you? Like a servant, right? How can I help you? So in Italy for Italian first. How can I help you?
Come posso aiutarla?
And then what else? French.
French, comment je peux vous aider? And
Uh,
Spanish, ¿cómo puedo ayudarla?
and then English, right? I guess. You say
Yes.
4. Yeah. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. I thought you may speak something else. Okay, but anyways, so Italian, Spanish, French, and English. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Not Japanese.
It's so hard. I've been trying to do one of those apps, but I think I chose the wrong app and it hasn't been working and I gave up. But I know how to count until 10 and I know like a few words.
Yeah.
And also, of course, philosophical concepts also in Japanese.
Yeah.
But it's so difficult.
Yeah. Well, that's great. 4 languages. That's really good. I can only speak 2, plus Shanghai dialect. All right. So
You know Mandarin and Cantonese?
no, Shanghai dialect.
Shanghai
Yeah,
dialect.
I do not speak Cantonese because
I also love your dumplings, the xiaolongbao,
it's Xiaolongbao,
or
right?
the baozi, the jiaozi. I love
Yeah.
also Chinese cuisine
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the lo mein,
Lao mian.
lao
Lao
mian,
mian.
lao mian, the
Yeah.
noodles.
Yeah,
Oh
Lao,
God,
they call
I
Lo mian, but it's really Lao mian. Yeah.
lao mian.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love them. I love
yeah.
them.
Yeah, so what is a what did you read recently you recommend? A book.
Oh God, this is a little depressing.
You don't read
Right
like me.
now, The Plague by Albert Camus.
Oh.
And it's about an actual plague because I said, after 2 years of pandemic, we're still not out of it.
Mm.
It was the most sold book in 2020 because they revived it.
Mm.
So I said, let's read it. But I like take breaks and then start again. And
Yeah.
and then I've been reading a bit Edmund Burke's concept of the sublime. He's a philosopher, and I really like this idea of how he favors sublime over beauty, because beauty is something that is merely aesthetically pleasing, whereas the sublime is that power that we experience also in nature that somehow overwhelms us. Also because it has some sort of destructiveness in it, or we acknowledge the fact that we are so precarious. So I'm doing a bit of these kind of readings right now.
Wow, very deep. You're a deep person. And I recently read this, and I also listened to the tape.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Not left, not right, but forward.
Yeah, it's Yan's third book. It's a really amazing book. Yeah, we became I don't know, I can't speak for other people, but reading is not as I don't know. People don't read as much as before in general, right? People look at their cell phone more than reading a book, right?
I
I would
know.
say. I would say.
Yeah, I fortunately I was between the analogical generation and the digital generation. So when I was in school, I still had to do all my research in libraries,
Yeah.
books.
Yeah.
I see my students now,
Yeah.
they do a lot of copy and paste and collages off Wikipedia or the
Yeah.
internet in general.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I try to
Yeah.
make their homeworks more conceptual so they can't even cheat because
Yeah.
it's their reasoning that has to go in the homework.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah, it's unfortunate. And also people move on to audiobooks now because they can listen to it while they're still doing other things. That is also like a experience, not the exclusivity, right? You're doing dishes, but you're listening, to a book. So
It's
that's interesting. A different era. All right. So if you had a chance to have dinner with three living person, who would you
living.
like to? Yeah, who would you like to have dinner with?
Oh gosh, this is a very difficult question. Oh my goodness, like so many. Probably Jane Goodall, because I'm very fascinated by her work with sustainability. Probably also David Attenborough for the same reason, and someone from the film world. Let's
Mm,
see, Anthony Hopkins. I absolutely love Anthony Hopkins. So yeah, I think this would be an interesting trio. Brit,
beautiful, beautiful.
all
Yeah.
Brit.
Oh, beautiful. So, do w- do you do any exercise or any method to, to cope with this difficult time, meaning the COVID and not able to see too many people?
Oh, do you mean physical exercise?
Yeah. Do you do physical exercise?
Oh, I'm terrible in that. I'm like super workaholic, but I'm terribly lazy when it comes to physical activity. I'm a great walker. So if you give me the right shoes, I can go on for hours and hours. I used to do dancing a lot. And a few years ago, I started reprising one of my greatest passions, which is tap dancing.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know, and I had the hang of it. But no, with the pandemic, I haven't been doing. I've tried a bit of yoga at home with tutorials, but I'm terribly lazy. I mean, either there's someone who tells me do it, or if I have to do it myself, I start and then I don't do it for weeks and weeks. So I'm very bad at that.
Yeah,
Do
I
you
can.
do any physical activity? Well, you're
Yeah.
super fit, so you probably.
I just don't consume a lot of food. I think I starve myself. I don't, you see, I get up, I just drink coffee, then I don't eat anything until 12 or 1. So
Wow.
yeah, I don't get hungry. So my family is also kind of skinny too, because I starve them too. No, just kidding.
We're all very athletic without doing any exercise.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So oh yeah, I was gonna ask you something. So do you have an all-time favorite film?
That's one of the questions that film critics never want to be asked because we have a variety of films. We have authors. We have.
I know.
I can tell you that as an Italian, I'm very fond of Federico Fellini. So I have in my heart 8.5, without doubt. But and Amarcord as well. As a matter of fact, Amarcord is my ringtone. If you call me, it plays the music by Nino Rota from Amarcord. But then there are many other filmmakers that I love, also Americans, Scorsese, Billy Wilder, so many.
Yeah. So how important you think the soundtracks affect the film?
I think the soundtrack is a crucial element of the film because it really enhances the music. It very much nurtures the non-verbal language within a story. And I can say with pride that one of the best composers of film scores in the world was Italian, Ennio Morricone. And he really knew how to master the composition of music, because he made it very layered. And it's something that I've been discussing recently with people in the music field who told me that they, when they were listening to Ennio Morricone, they would imagine landscapes. To them, it would evoke them visual aspects of the scenery, even without looking at the film. So it really possessed this identity. And he actually came from a very classical upbringing. He did all the hardcore traditional training. And something that maybe not everyone knows is that he spent a lifetime being accepted by his teachers, who were very snobbish about him writing for film. They did not consider him a true composer in the beginning because he would write for films. But then obviously they realized what a genius he was.
Wow, that's wonderful. So, when you write, do you think in Italian or English?
English.
Interesting.
I do. All of my work is in English. Even if I live in Italy, my teaching course at university is in English. All the outlets I write for are in English. The panels I moderated for Cartier are in English here in Milan. So English for me is very much the language of my heart, and the way I can express my artistry, if we can call it that way. Italian is the language I grew up in because it's where I live. It's my heritage. I get cross in Italian. I like to swear in Italian. It's more poetic in Italian than in English.
Yeah.
But yes, all of my creative thoughts and ponderings usually occur in English.
Wow, very interesting. If I would take you right now to a happy hour, what should I get for you?
Prosecco.
Very
Bubbles.
nice. Yeah, very nice. Actually, I bought some prosecco from Costco. Actually, they imported from Italy. It's very
good.
nice. Yeah, very nice, very nice. Kind of little apple flavor, a little bit. Yeah. So, okay, one last question. Very easy. Coffee or tea?
Tea. Matcha. Green tea.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Chiara, for talking to me. Yeah, 谢谢. Yeah, so I hope to see you sometimes, not too long.
Too.
Yeah, and you stay safe, and hope this whole virus thing will be a past, right? A thing of a past, and then hopefully we can get to our normalcy pretty soon.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Ching, for having me on your lovely show. You were a magnificent host, and thank you to all the people who joined us.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for being with us. And you can see this conversation when we close, and it's going to be online. And yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, be safe, and I look forward to talk to you or see your work. Keep us updated. Yeah, and people follow Chiara's work, and her social media what do you call handles. Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, thank you so much.
Grazie and ciao.
Good night. It's your nighttime. Yeah,
thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.